It's a comforting thought, isn't it? The idea of settling into your favorite chair, dimming the lights, and losing yourself in the immersive world of music, where every note feels like it's reaching out to envelop you. The sound is everywhere, tantalizing your ears, the crucial ingredient to a remarkable listening experience. But what happens when that dream disintegrates into a messy quagmire of confusion and disappointment? That's the story we're exploring today, the rise and fall of quadraphonic sound, the format war everybody lost. Back in 1972, the music landscape was awash with excitement and innovation. Rock and roll was on fire, emotions were high, and the HiFi culture vibrated with the promise of something revolutionary. Enter quadraphonic sound, a dazzling new frontier. Imagine the thrill of 4-channel audio. It promised to engulf listeners in a swirling, rich tapestry of sound. Your favorite music would no longer just come from 2 speakers in front of you, but rather from 4 strategically placed channels surrounding you in a glorious, nearly 3-dimensional sound experience. The idea was intoxicating, and record labels jumped in with enthusiasm. They envisioned record players equipped with astonishing capabilities, and studios began recording their albums with quadraphonic technology. Brands like Sansui, Pioneer, and even the traditional Titan RCA were in the thick of this audio revolution, their products promising to elevate your musical experience to uncharted territories. The sleek chrome and striking lights of a Sansui receiver, the depth of a wooden cabinet amplifying every note, created a seductive allure for enthusiasts. You could feel the weight of each component, solid, real, and breathing sound in a way that beckoned you closer. Your fingers would glide across the tuning dial, the warm glow illuminating your face as you searched for that perfect station or record. It felt like stepping into another world. But just as we began to really immerse ourselves in the 4-channel dreams, reality struck. Underneath the glossy finish of this new age, chaos loomed. Subtle fractures began to appear in the quadraphonic sky. You see, not all quad formats were created equal. You had SQ, with its summation of the channels into a 2-channel mix, designed for compatibility with stereo systems. Then came QS, which used a different technique to encode those additional channels, and finally, there was CD4, which offered the most stunning fidelity but required specific hardware that most people didn't own. Talk about a snarl. 3 different systems with different playback requirements inevitably sowed confusion among consumers and dealers alike. Imagine walking into a store. You're eager to explore this groundbreaking technology, but the salesperson throws a handful of acronyms your way. SQ, QS, CD4, how are you supposed to know which one offers the sound quality you crave? It's no wonder many music lovers quickly found themselves scratching their heads in frustration. Recording engineers and artists poured their souls into creating an immersive listening experience, but record labels were bailing out faster than a ship in a storm. It didn't take long for the novelty to wear off. Music enthusiasts started realizing that, in order to truly enjoy quadraphonic sound, they not only needed an advanced receiver but a compatible turntable and a record collection that also adhered to this elusive format. Combine that with the growing pain of incompatible recordings, and you're left with a feeling of profound disappointment. What had once felt like the future was now a source of confusion and aggravation. The music industry, once enamored with quadraphonic sound, began to sweat. With each passing month, the competition among formats only intensified, leading to an inevitable decimation of consumer interest. The industry, which had initially championed this new direction, saw profits plunging as record labels scrambled to return to the safety of the familiar stereo sound. The irony. Quadraphonic sound had the potential to elevate music consumption into an art form but instead became a cautionary tale. With artists like Pink Floyd and the Eagles experimenting with this new medium, expectations were set high only to be dashed on the rocks of incompatibility. As sales dwindled, the quadraphonic dream crumbled. The sonic landscape that could have been, rich with the lush vibrancy of sound, was lost, leaving behind a graveyard of half-hearted attempts to captivate audiences. The allure of the quadraphonic format began fading into nostalgic memories, whispers of what could have been. It was a disheartening moment that salted the earth for surround sound at home for years to come. The dreams of 4-channel listening dissipated, leaving only a few die-hard enthusiasts clinging to their receivers, resolute but ultimately isolated. And here we find ourselves asking, how did this happen? What went wrong? The answer lies not only in the confusion over compatibility but also within the companies producing the equipment. Amidst internal conflicts and a rush to the market, the manufacturers failed to coordinate their efforts, allowing a truly innovative moment to slip through their fingers like grains of sand. Companies struggled to adopt a unified approach, fostering a competitive environment filled with rival formats yet lacking a common standard. It was a recipe for disaster, especially when much of the music-loving public found themselves unwilling or unable to invest time, money, and effort into the fragmented offerings. By 1975, quadraphonic sound had retreated to the shadows of audio history. It became less of a thrilling revolution and more of a cautionary footnote. While the echoes of quadraphonic recordings still linger in the annals of certain music genres, they serve as a bittersweet reminder of what could have been, a grand orchestration of sound that never reached its crescendo. So what can we glean from this audio tragedy? Perhaps it's a matter of seeking compatibility in sound systems that appeal to our hearts, even in a world defined by rapid technological advances. As the history of audio demonstrates, the pursuit of innovation must be led by clarity, unity, and a shared vision. Producing memorable sonic experiences meant listening not just to the creative side of things but to the consumer seeking connection in their listening moments. Quadraphonic sound may have failed, but its aspirations to embrace and immerse us in an extra dimension still beckon us forward. As we continue to explore the boundaries of audio technology today, we look fondly back at the quaint era of noble ambitions and elaborate setups. Who knows what the next chapter will hold? Whatever it is, let's hope we carry with us the lessons learned from quadraphonic's tumultuous journey. Now, what about that rich, ambitious brand that dared to conquer all with multi-channel audio, but, like so many others, eventually lost its way? Sitting on the edge of this fascinating era, we also have to revisit something that laid the groundwork for this ambitious push towards quadraphonic sound: stereo music itself. By the mid-1960s, stereo had woven itself into the cultural fabric and truly captured listeners' imaginations. The simplicity and clarity of two-channel systems delivered warmth and depth, making every record feel like a grand performance in the comfort of one's living room. Think back to the smooth rhythms of artists like Simon and Garfunkel, their harmony simmering with life as every note danced through the room. It was the golden age, and high fidelity was a rite of passage for the burgeoning home audio enthusiast. But as quadraphonic emerged, manufacturers began to race toward innovation, believing that stacking channels would somehow create an experience that stereo simply couldn't match. Their early successes, like the Philips CD4 system, showcased incredible potential, 4 independent channels, each reaching out to the listener in a way that made Syd Barrett's delicate melodies feel like they were floating all around you. But amid the fervor and excitement, details such as user adaptability fell through the cracks. In their haste to advance, companies neglected to consider the realities which faced the average consumer, who might have been enchanted by quadraphonic sound yet immediately bewildered by the educational barriers presented by its various encoding methods. Let's take a closer look at what happened in those early years, particularly with one of the more fervent players in the quadraphonic game, RCA. They didn't just want to sell a new system, they believed they could revolutionize audio. But in their eagerness, they introduced equipment and records designed specifically for the more sophisticated CD4 format. Their demonstrations showcased vibrant, richly layered recordings of artists like The Who wandering around the room, making it easy to forget that to truly experience it, you had to invest in additional hardware, specifically, a special decoder and stylus. So many consumers stood at the threshold with these lofty promises spread before them, only to not possess the keys to unlock this splendid sonic treasure. Imagine being a teenager in 1974, thrust into your local audio store with visions of a 4-channel adventure dancing in your head. You walk toward a gleaming Sansui receiver, its faceplate boasting a tantalizing 110 watts per channel. The salesperson, with a voice dripping in enthusiasm, talks about the next big thing, what he calls quadraphonic audio, and beckons you toward a flashy demo room. What strikes you first isn't just the cool blue lights, but that stampede of sound filling the space, a rush that sends tingles down your spine. But as the sales pitch continues, you learn about SQ, CD4, and QS formats, leaving you more dazed than inspired. And while some audiophiles might have taken that leap of faith for the sake of musical exploration, the average consumer stepped back out of confusion. Why invest in a dual-format player when one component could only play the fixed style, potentially locking you into one type of sonic experience? It became a burden, and many simply turned back to what they knew, 2 channels and their beloved LP collections. An inconvenience kept many at bay, and manufacturers watched their investments start to dwindle in the face of this uncertainty. It wasn't just RCA facing the wrath of confusion. Colossal names like Pioneer and Technics also fell victim to this fragmented audio landscape. The Technics brand had high expectations for their quadraphonic gear, envisioning a market ripe for a cutthroat competition. But like their counterparts, the messaging became tangled, confusing listeners and leaving potential customers parked on the sidelines. Record label associations began to fade as quickly as their hopes for a quadraphonic revival, opting instead for the safe return to stereo. As producers behind legends like Kansas and Fleetwood Mac began to realize the limitations of distributing quad recordings, it became a harsh reality check. Their craft became mired in uncertainty rather than celebrated for its innovation. Within this turmoil, an underground movement started gaining traction. Some audio enthusiasts, determined to stake their claim in quadraphonic sound, became resourceful. They shared tips on forums or at local meetups, tinkering with makeshift switchboxes and seeking ways to adapt one system to another. The dedicated few would painstakingly modify their turntables or line out a signal to fabricate multi-channel sound, becoming almost alchemists of sound. Their passion took forms that allowed scrappy, homemade solutions to thrive, but in a larger context, it only deepened the confusion among mainstream consumers who didn't have the technical know-how. This culture of audio tinkering encompassed a spectrum of knickknacks and craftsmanship. For instance, some audiophiles found joy in creating custom speaker placements, claiming that with the right adjustments, they could transform their living room into an immersive concert hall, despite their equipment being utterly incompatible. But instead of paving the way for a broader acceptance of quadraphonic listening, those failed attempts resulted in an overall disillusionment. If you didn't possess the right gear or gravitate toward the deep forums of dedicated enthusiasts, quadraphonic listening felt like an elite club meant to thwart universal access. Interestingly, this technological failure didn't signal the end of multi-channel sound altogether. Almost as if the seeds of innovation waited patiently beneath the surface tension, new technologies like Dolby Pro Logic emerged in the late 1970s, setting the stage for perfection in surround sound. This opened the door to a rebirth of immersive audio, echoing the quadraphonic dreams of yesteryear while finally offering a viable, compatible solution. With its ability to decode existing stereo tracks into a surround format, Dolby Pro Logic turned out to be the audio phoenix the industry needed, a simple technology that allowed listeners to bask in richer soundscapes without being forced to invest in an entirely new system. There was a lesson ingrained in the tapestry of quadraphonic sound's tumultuous history, marking a pivotal moment for the industry. Each time an artist stepped back into the studio, they honed in on the significance of how sound and technology intertwine, drawing on audience desires, and understanding that accessibility is key. Imagine how appreciative those performers felt to take the stage with so much to discover anew while still being tethered to their audience's experience, and the tension that emerged between technological exploration and listener comprehension. Even now, as we delve into a world where the remnants of quadraphonic sound echo in the corridors of time, one can detect the faint heartbeat of innovation that guided the pathway to modern home theater systems. The push for surround sound evolved, letting people witness lush media experiences marked not by complexity but rather by the elegance of seamless connectivity. Today, we continue to ride waves of sonic trends emerging from the ashes of quadraphonic sound. From multi-channel audio in film, turning cinematic experiences into lifelike journeys, to the more recent advent of photo-quality albums that encompass spatial audio, each resurrection nods back to an ambitious vision that was only partially realized. So here we are, always anticipating the next step in our sonic journey. Just as the past shapes our present, we stand on the shoulders of giants like those who dared to dream in the world of quadraphonic sound. The great irony persists, the war waged over formats became a cautionary fable that reminds us that technology, however revolutionary, must integrate human experience at its core. Let's carry those lessons with us, even amid fast-moving trends, and ask ourselves as we toggle through channels and formats, what experiences do we want to create for today's evolving world? And what about that legendary Japanese brand, known for its sophisticated engineering, that rose to prominence but ultimately found